So we believe climate change is real and it is happening. However, the anthropogenic effect that we're having on it, like the man-made effect that we're having on this climate change, is very, very negligible. And with that, we believe that incurring carbon taxes, incurring taxes on companies that produce more emissions is not as necessary as it's made out to be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
your opening statement?
When we decided to do this debate, I said very definitively we wanted to do climate change. It seemed to be a thing that kept coming up in class, and we were all sort of, yeah, climate change. It's not because I'm a tree-hugging liberal. I don't really care about the dolphins. I think recycling in a lot of ways can be wasteful and destructive. But I think that even the fact that this is being considered a debate is, first of all, ignorant, and second of all, incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. The sentiment that it's just a theory is false. The more we as a society continue to give credence to this side of the argument, the more blocks the opportunity to solve the problem, and the more unsolvable the problem becomes.
All right, back to this side for your 4 opening statements.
That's 4 minutes.
4 minutes now. Yeah, thanks.
so. I'm gonna
So,
do
yeah,
I'm
4
gonna
minutes.
do 2 of them, and David's gonna do 2 of them. All right. Basically, we're not disagreeing with you that climate change is happening. We are agreeing with you that it is happening. Where we are disagreeing is that what we are impacting on the environment as humans is so small that compared to what's happening, it doesn't make sense. For example, CO2, the biggest bad guy out there, according to the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, 85% of the United States emissions are CO2. CO2 doesn't amount for a huge amount of change in temperature. Water vapor and cloud cover account for a lot more, things that we don't have as much impact on. That's my 2 points.
We also don't want there to be a bill for like carbon tax because we feel like that's such a small, it's a small contributor to the climate change, which is CO2, would be ridiculous because, we're paying for something that has such a small effect on our climate that we're crippling our economy just by doing so. That's one thing. That's the second one I forget. Oh, right. So like the numbers for the CO2 for 2005 were 379 ppm.
That's according to the IPCC as well.
And but according to surface temperature, it was at least
Well, not certain. So basically what David's trying to say is that CO2, when you double that content from 2005, it leads to a 1.1 degree increase. This is again according to the IPCC with just CO2, not affecting clouds, not affecting water vapor, anything like that. So again, we're just bringing up that point where CO2 levels, and our current CO2 levels right now are 401.58 ppm, and that's according to climate.nasa.gov.
1.1 degree difference, just because of CO2. That's it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm scribbling notes to Adam here. We're going to go back and forth, so he's going to say plan this evening.
Okay. So, speaking about authorities in terms of organizations that have credibility in this particular field, we have the British Royal Society, we have the American National Academies, and of course you had mentioned, before, Intergovernmental Panel on Global Climate Change, which has been established by the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Program. Now, these organizations, they've spent a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort, not to mention manpower and education and researching, to prove that climate change is not just a natural occurrence that occurs every couple 100,000 years. It's something that is being accelerated by man-made products, by CO2 emissions, by greenhouse gases. In fact, from Stats Canada in particular, which also told me which organizations were credible in this case, they had mentioned that Canada, even though we have 0.5% of the world's population, we contribute more than 2% of the total global greenhouses that exist in the world. Now, just think about that mathematically. Almost double the amount of greenhouse gases for significantly less population that we're causing just for the oil sands and all these other global events, that we essentially are polluting the air and just making things worse.
Okay, and I'd say let's just say for a moment that you guys have a legitimate argument, which you don't. But let's just say there's a chance that either of us is correct. This is up in the air, coin flip, nobody knows. What happens if you're wrong? Because I would say continuing melting of the ice caps, the climate being more inclement, heat-related deaths, the economic impact of more natural disasters, flooding on eastern coastlines. What happens if I'm wrong? Let's say we're wrong. Because I would say we would have a renewable energy sector and things would be a little bit more expensive for a while. So what side do you think you would be, is a more preferable one to be on?
And also keep in mind that this is essentially an argument, even though that climate change is the central topic, really this is an argument about pollution as well. Are we in favor of keeping these companies, continuing them to produce huge amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, polluting the water, polluting the oxygen we breathe? Really, it's not necessarily an argument of climate change that we're having here, it's an argument of, do you want to be breathing in all those chemicals? And if there's a, more expensive way to deal with it, but over a long period of time it becomes more affordable and cheaper and healthier for the populations of the world, I think it's a risk worth looking at.
And the economic viability of it, because at one point fossil fuels didn't exist as an industry. We had to make that from scratch. There's no, the carbon tax that you say is going to be an economic strain on us is revenue neutral. We take that money and we put it back into people's pockets. We put it into the renewable energy sector. Nobody's saying hack this off and now you're all screwed. Everybody's saying transfer this to this. It's a transference of industry, it's not the elimination of industry. It's not the elimination of economy.
That's it. 4 points both sides. Great. So a minute break now before we get into the 5-minute open debate.
It's fun to be in charge.
Can't be, sorry, I kind of touched
Hey
it.
there, Shay.
How dare you?
Stop.
There she's in the video now. For a second.
These are little bits about
I'm always so worried that you can hear like crumbling of this.
Oh, you
stuff
can.
behind
It's
it.
okay.
Oh, this is nicer.
It's magnified. Is the video rolling right now?
$1.4 billion per year. This is just to
So don't say anything
in
mean.
Labrador for fossil fuels.
You're weird.
That's me.
Saying, hey, we want more money out of this instead of cash.
Not called for.
This is circulating
Flying
money,
birthday
giving
party
money
for you.
And that's
I
time.
know, I know.
Thanks, Darcy. All right, we're back into
I
the open
appreciate
debate when your hand flies up. Scott.
So we've got, do you know something becomes a theory?
Right.
There's a scientist that says, oh, like, this is happening there, and then comes with a hypothesis, and then they test it, and then it's tested to be true, and then it goes to their peers, and then the peers do it, and it goes round and round until it's pretty much a consensus there. We're at 97.2% of all scientists that are looking at this are saying that climate change is man-made.
Sorry, I want to bring up a point about that 97%, this supposed 97%.
Oh,
When you have, and this is from the IPCC,
Yeah.
this is the company this is the organization that produced this 97%. 2,500 scientists work on that whole climate change theory. 62 of them reviewed the part that was about man-made. 62. With 55 of them already being known advocates for climate change being man-made. 2 of them disagreed, and 5 of them agreed with it.
When was this?
This is from their, I pulled this from an article.
However, not to interrupt you.
Yeah, no,
because you-
this is really important
You-
because
you-
I call BS on it.
That's true.
Scientific American article from July 24th, 2014 is where I get the 97.2%.
I
So I
know
wanna
that,
see what
I
you-
found that exact 97.2%, but for every one I found, I have 2 articles here, one from Forbes and one from climatechangedispatch.com. I'm not sure how credible that one is, but from Forbes, basically the question,
You look at 2.8% of dissension.
I've
These are the
seen that-
scientists, this is just like
I've
a
seen that
cigarette
exact-
company saying cigarettes aren't bad for you in the
I've
50s
seen,
and 60s.
I've seen that
They're-
exact stat, but
They're
it's,
paid by, this little bit of an anomaly is paid by,
no,
by
I'm not, I'm
people-
saying the 97% is not accurate to what it actually is.
I'm sorry, but Scientific American is a very credible journal.
Now, not
It's not gonna be-
not
Your
to
question.
keep everybody off topic here, just to kind of refocus this in a little bit. According to ecowatch.com, Denmark, 31% of its overall energy is created by wind, just by having windmills. Rachel Notley on the news is already shown off the new energy plan for Albertans, and they set into motion a plan for the next 15 years to transfer us, which at the moment we're at 65% of our energy is done through coal, which I want to also point out, non-renewable resource, very toxic, very dangerous, very challenging for an industry to continue to survive off of that long term. And, transferring all that 65% of coal energy into renewable sources of energy instead, through either hydropower, wind power,
Now,
and solar
sorry,
power
I'm gonna
potentially.
interrupt you here. When you're producing these things, wind power, let's look at a windmill.
They're creating jobs,
A
and
windmill-
they're
a
offering
windmill
opportunities for
That's
people.
right.
They're
Requires
also
steel,
re-educating these people
and
that
the
are
heat
in the coal
necessary to
industry.
make
Weren't we
steel.
talking about climate change, not about energy and
It's all
Yeah,
relevant,
no, we're saying it's, yeah,
No,
you
it
can
is
be,
relevant.
because it's all
But
man-made.
Denmark's actually at 39%, they wanna be at 2050, they wanna be 100% renewable.
Right.
They're well above their goal, they want to be at 50% by 2020, they're well above, and their economy is not suffering because of it.
And the
Their
reason
economy
why
is
this,
thriving because of it.
and the reason why this is significant, David, just to answer your question, it's significant because we believe that climate change is being accelerated through man-made causes, through non-renewable.
I'm sorry, Ray, but that was his fault. Good.
So to produce these windmills requires steel, and to get the heats high enough to make steel, we burn fossil fuels. So
Yes,
even
wouldn't it be
producing-
lovely not to have to do that?
Right.
And,
hold on.
well, do we burn more fossil fuels in the making of a windmill, or in burning fossil fuels to heat our homes? What's gonna burn more fossil fuels? The idea is not that we just stop on a dime right now and kill all of
Over
it.
gradual.
This is to get off the reliance of it, to stop having our economies dictated by things overseas who can change the price of oil just because they feel spiteful.
But the thing is, how much is man-made, CO2 and all that stuff, how much is it contributing to climate change? It's, like we said, it's 1.1 degree difference here in
You don't
Canada.
think
If it's
1.1 degree in
if it's double,
an
if it's
average
double.
mean temperature is small?
Extremely
You
small.
really need to look at the facts of what a big deal 1.1 average mean temperature means.
if
It's
it's doubled,
huge,
if our
it's
CO2 content,
significant.
if our CO2 content is doubled from 2007, if it's doubled from that number.
What do you mean?
And this
It's
is-
time.
Well done. Okay,
Scott was
excellent.
going
1 minute
crazy.
break before you get into your closing statement.
That was sick.
That was
Oh, it's
entertaining.
31%, it's actually 39.
Well, no, that's what I wrote down.
Scott?
No, that's the 39.
Scott always entertains me.
Make sure you guys
That's
tally up
why
who
I
you
will
think won
never
that open
argue
debate.
against
We'll
you
have a discussion
ever
right
again,
afterwards.
you meanie.
It's hard.
Closing statements. So
you're gonna be close.
what are we
How's the timing going for that
Oh,
one?
yeah, what do you wanna say?
Like 30 seconds or something?
Like 20 seconds.
It starts with them, right? Because they have the starting set.
We can say that studies about the man-made effects on global warming are 96. This is not new. Sam Lingle in 1896, or when he was looking at, the position. So this has been going for over 100 years, I can say that very confidently. John Sawyer in 1972.
John Sawyer.
Giving away good points.
Anyway,
Scott, you know we can hear you, right?
I
Yeah.
don't care.
Well, anyway, stop because
Scott's
now
kinda-
it's
Okay,
Yeah.
closing
Yeah.
statements, back to who started the debate.
Is it, is that?
That was,
Okay,
yeah.
so we understand that there is climate change, we're not saying that that it's not a thing. We understand that there is some sort of man-made contribution to it, but it's so minimal, it's so minuscule. The fact that we're throwing millions and millions of dollars at this industry is just ludicrous. Like, we shouldn't be throwing so much money at it because our economy is kind of being crippled from it. We're trying, I know the fact that there is energy for this, but the fact that it's like, what, 0 point, like you said, if it's doubled, but it's not gonna change much temperature at all. And the climate change won't be as effective, so.
Okay. So Sam Langley, in 1896, began the study of global climate change at the start of the Industrial Revolution. And essentially, he was not only able to through his work and studies, of course, we had John Sawyer, who published a study about the man-made effects of carbon dioxide. And not only was he terrifyingly able to predict the rate of CO2 entering our atmosphere, but able to make a correlation with that to the increase in industry as well. So this has been going on for more than just 10 years. This has been going on for a very long time. There's objective evidence that proves that man-made sources are accelerating climate change. And on top of that, we're just ignorant in the sense that we're not doing anything about it. Now, thankfully, the UN and a couple other intelligence scientific organizations have recognized that climate change is a man-made problem. And it's something that is going to forever exist unless we start changing things now.
Okay, and that's the end of the debate. Thank you very much.
Exactly, that's one